Park Tae-ho took a deep breath as the shuttle doors opened. Cold air rushed in, carrying a smell he could not name. It was not bad. Just different? Everything was different now. He stepped onto the metal floor of the Galactic Council station. The lights were soft and blue. The walls curved like the inside of a seashell. Tae-ho had seen pictures before, but pictures could not capture this. He was standing in a place built by beings from other worlds. He was the first human to ever be here. His heart beat fast, but he kept his face calm. He was not just Park Tae-ho anymore. He was Earth's ambassador. Every step he took, every word he spoke, would represent 8 billion people back home. A group of aliens waited for him at the end of the walkway. Tae-ho had studied their species for months, but seeing them in person was something else entirely. There was a tall creature that looked like an insect, with 4 arms and large green eyes. Next to it floated a being made of swirling gas, contained in some kind of force field. Behind them stood several creatures that resembled pale deer, walking on thin legs with soft fur covering their bodies. None of them moved toward him. Tae-ho stopped a few meters away and bowed his head slightly. It was a gesture of respect that most species understood. "I am Park Tae-ho," he said, "ambassador from Earth. Thank you for welcoming me." The deer-like creature at the front stepped forward. Her movements were careful, like she was walking on thin ice. "I am Counselor Veth," she said. Her voice was gentle but shaky. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, we welcome you, Ambassador Park." Tae-ho smiled. He meant it to be friendly, but he noticed something strange. When he smiled, Counselor Veth took a small step backward. The insect creature's wings buzzed nervously. The gas being floated a little higher, as if trying to get away. They were afraid of him. Tae-ho did not understand. He was just one man. He had no weapons. He was not even very tall by human standards. But these aliens looked at him like he was a bomb that might go off at any moment. He decided not to mention it. "Not yet. Shall we go inside?" he asked. Councilor Veth nodded quickly. Yes, of course. Please follow me." As they walked through the station, Tae-ho looked around with wonder. There were hundreds of aliens everywhere. Some walked on legs. Some slithered. Some flew. Some moved in ways he could not even describe. The station was like a city floating in space, filled with life from across the galaxy. But everywhere Tae-ho went, the crowds parted. Aliens stopped talking when he passed. They pressed against the walls to give him room. Mothers pulled their children close. Guards watched him with tense eyes. Tae-ho felt like he was walking through a graveyard, not a busy station. "Counselor Veth," he said quietly, "may I ask you something?" "Of course, Ambassador. Why is everyone afraid of me?" Veth's hooves clicked faster on the floor. She did not answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was even softer than before. "Tomorrow, Ambassador, you will understand. The Council wishes to show you something. It is tradition for all new species. What will you show me?" "The Predator database." Veth glanced at him with her large, dark eyes. There was something sad in them. Something almost like pity. "After you see it, many things will become clear." Tae-ho wanted to ask more, but Veth walked faster, ending the conversation. He let it go for now. He would find out tomorrow. They reached his quarters an hour later. The room was large and comfortable. The bed was shaped strangely, but it looked soft. There was a window that showed the stars outside, bright and endless. Tae-ho sat down and pulled out his communication device. He needed to talk to someone from home. The screen flickered, and then a familiar face appeared. Lieutenant Beek Somi. She was his assistant back on Earth, a sharp woman with short hair and serious eyes. She had helped him prepare for this mission for 2 years. "Ambassador," she said, "how was the arrival?" Strange, Taiho replied. They are afraid of me, Somi, all of them. I smiled at a counselor, and she backed away like I was going to attack her. Somi frowned. Afraid? Of you? Of humans. They mentioned something called the Predator Database. They are going to show it to me tomorrow. Somi typed something on her computer. I have never heard of that. Let me look into it. Thank you. Taiho paused. Somi, I have met thousands of aliens today. Different shapes, different sizes. But they all have one thing in common. What is that? Taiho looked out the window at the stars. They all look like prey. Big eyes for watching danger. Thin bodies for running away. Soft voices, nervous movements. He turned back to the screen. I have not seen a single alien that looks like a predator. Not one. Somi was silent for a moment. Then she said, Stay sharp, Ambassador. Something about this does not feel right. I will. After the call ended, Taiho lay on the strange bed and stared at the ceiling. Outside his window, the galaxy turned slowly. Billions of stars. Millions of worlds. And somewhere out there, a question waited for him. Where were the predators? He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. But the look on Counselor Veth's face stayed with him. That look of fear. And underneath the fear, something else. Pity. Tomorrow would bring answers. Taiho was not sure he would like them. The next morning, 2 guards came to Taiho's room. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 eyes. They wore armor and carried weapons that looked like long metal sticks. But even with all their protection, they kept their distance from him. Ambassador Park, one guard said. The council is ready for you. Taiho stood up and fixed his uniform. It was simple and black, with a small Earth flag on the shoulder. He wanted to look professional, calm, human. Lead the way, he said. They walked through long hallways and took lifts that moved sideways instead of up and down. Taiho tried to memorize the path, but the station was too big and too strange. After 20 minutes, they arrived at a massive door, made of crystal. The door opened without a sound. Inside was the largest room Taiho had ever seen. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it. The walls were made of glowing crystals that hummed with energy. In the center of the room stood a platform surrounded by floating seats. About 50 aliens sat in those seats, all watching him. Counselor Veth was there. So was the insect preacher and the gas being from yesterday. There were also many others Taiho had never seen before. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no faces at all. They all stared at him with the same expression. Fear, curiosity, and that strange pity he could not understand. A creature made of living stone stepped forward. It moved slowly, each step making a heavy sound on the floor. Its face had no real features, just 2 glowing spots where eyes should be and a crack that served as a mouth. I am Senior Archivist Moral, the stone being said. Its voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. Welcome to the archives, Ambassador Park. Taiho bowed his head. Thank you. I have been told you want to show me something. Yes. Moral turned toward the center of the room. The Predator Database. It is our way of helping new species understand their place in the galaxy. The archivist raised one stone hand. The air above the platform began to glow. Then images appeared, floating in the air like ghosts. Taiho had never seen technology like this. The images were so clear, so real, he felt like he could touch them. The first image was a creature with massive jaws and armored skin. It looked like a dinosaur from Earth, but bigger. Much bigger. This is a Class 7 predator from the Vorn system, Moral explained. It can bite through starship metal. Its speed is 40 meters per second. Threat level, extreme. The image changed. Now there was a snake-like thing with hundreds of teeth. Then a beast covered in sharp spikes. Then a flying creature with claws like swords. One after another, the images showed monsters from across the galaxy. Taiho watched with interest. These were impressive creatures. Dangerous. Deadly. But he was not sure why the council wanted him to see them. The display continued for almost an hour. Thousands of predator species scrolled past. Each one had numbers next to it. Speed, strength, aggression, kill rate. The database measured everything. Finally, Morrow raised his hand again. The images stopped. "Now, Ambassador," the Archimist said slowly, "we will show you where humans rank." The room became very quiet. Every alien leaned forward in their seat. Taiho could feel their eyes on him like physical weight. A new image appeared. It was Earth, blue oceans, green land, white clouds. His home looked beautiful floating there in the light. Then the data appeared next to it. Taiho read the words carefully. Pursuit predation. That meant humans hunted by chasing prey until it was too tired to run. Persistence hunting. Humans could run longer than almost any animal on their planet. Adrenaline. A chemical that made humans stronger and faster when in danger. Pain tolerance. Humans could keep fighting even with serious injuries. The numbers kept coming. Pattern recognition. Humans could find patterns and predict behavior. Pack coordination. Humans worked together better than almost any species in the database. Tool creation. Humans made weapons, traps, and machines to kill more efficiently. And then the final number appeared. Overall threat ranking. Top 0.3%. Taiho blinked. Top 0.3%. That meant out of every 1,000 predator species in the galaxy, humans were more dangerous than 997 of them. He looked around the room. The aliens were trembling. Some had closed their eyes. One small creature was crying quietly. They were terrified, but the database was not finished. A new section appeared. It showed Earth's other predators. Wolves with sharp teeth. Lions with powerful muscles. Crocodiles that had lived for millions of years. Sharks that ruled the oceans. Bears that could kill with one hit. All of them were ranked as extreme threats, and at the bottom of the list, there was a note. Taiho read it twice to make sure he understood. Humans have dominated, hunted, or domesticated every apex predator on their planet. The room was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Morrow's stone face turned toward Taiho. "Now you understand, Ambassador. Now you know why we watch you. Why we fear you." Taiho looked at the image of Earth, still floating in the air. His beautiful, deadly home. He thought about everything he had just learned. And slowly, a question began to form in his mind. A question that no one in this room would expect. He looked up at Morrow and the gathered council. 50 pairs of frightened eyes looked back. "I have a question," Taiho said quietly. The room held its breath. What Taiho asked next would change everything. Every alien in the room waited. The silence was so heavy that Taiho could hear his own heartbeat. He could feel 50 pairs of eyes watching him, waiting to see how the human predator would react to learning the truth about his species. Maybe they expected him to be angry. Maybe they expected him to be proud. Maybe they expected him to show his teeth and prove that the database was right. But Taiho did none of those things. Instead, he looked at the data floating in front of him one more time. He studied the list of apex predators. He looked at the threat rankings. He read the note about humans dominating every dangerous creature on Earth. Then he looked around the room. Really looked. Councillor Veth with her soft fur and gentle eyes. Morrow, made of stone, but moving so carefully. The insect creature with wings that buzzed nervously. The gas being floating high, staying as far from him as possible. The small crying creature in the corner. The feathered ones. The scaled ones. The ones with no faces. They were all different. Different shapes, different sizes, different colors. But they were all the same in one way. None of them looked like predators. Taiho had studied biology on Earth. He knew what prey animals looked like. Large eyes on the sides of their heads, so they could watch for danger. Thin, light bodies built for running. Soft voices that would not attract attention. Nervous movements, always ready to escape. Every alien in this room had those features. Every single one. And suddenly, Taiho understood why his question was important. He looked at Senior Archivist Moral. The stone being stood very still, waiting. "Where are the rest of you?" Taiho asked. Moral tilted his head. "I do not understand your question, Ambassador." Taiho pointed at the floating database. "This list. These predator species. You have shown me thousands of dangerous creatures. Beasts with claws and teeth and poison. Hunters from every corner of the galaxy." He paused. "But those are animals. Wild creatures. They do not build spaceships. They do not form councils." The room was very quiet now. Some aliens exchanged nervous glances. Taiho continued. "I have been on this station for 2 days. I have seen hundreds of different species. Counselors, merchants, guards, workers. And every single one of them is a herbivore. A plant eater. A grazer. A filter feeder." He looked directly at Moral. "Where are the intelligent predators? The species that hunt and also think? The ones like humans who reach the stars with blood in their history." He let the question hang in the air. "Where are they?" Nobody answered. COUNCILLOR. Veth looked down at the floor. The insect creature's wings stopped buzzing. The gas being floated even higher, trying to disappear. Taiho felt a cold feeling spread through his chest. He did not want to believe what he was thinking. But he had to know. "You said this database ranks predator species," he said slowly. "You said you show it to every new civilization that joins the Council. But why would prey species need a predator database unless—" He stopped. The words were too horrible to say. Moral's stone face was impossible to read. But his voice was heavy when he finally spoke. "You begin to understand, Ambassador." "No." Taiho shook his head. "Tell me I am wrong. Tell me there is another explanation." "I cannot." Another voice spoke up. It was a small creature with blue feathers and a trembling beak. "We had no choice. You have to understand. We had no choice. What did you do?" Taiho demanded. His voice was louder now. He could not help it. Counselor Veth stepped forward. Her eyes were wet with tears. "Ambassador Park, please. You must let us explain what we did, what we have done for thousands of years. It was the only way to survive." Taiho looked at her. "What did you do?" Veth opened her mouth, but no words came out. She looked at Moral. She looked at the other counselors. They all looked away. The silence stretched on. Then the small feathered creature spoke again. His voice was barely a whisper. "We killed them." The words fell like stones into water. "We killed them all." Taiho stared at the creature. His mind refused to accept what he was hearing. "What do you mean, all of them?" Moral stepped forward. His stone body seemed heavier than before. "The ambassador deserves the full truth," he said. "Tomorrow we will explain everything. The history of the galaxy. The wars. The suppression protocol." His glowing eyes fixed on Taiho. "And what it means for your species." Taiho wanted to argue. He wanted answers now. But he could see the fear in every face around him. These were not evil creatures. They were scared. They had been scared for thousands of years. And now they had found another predator. Humans. Taiho took a deep breath. He forced his voice to stay calm. "Tomorrow then," he said. "But I want the truth." "All of it," Marl nodded slowly. "You will have it, Ambassador, whether you want it or not." The guards led Taiho back to his room. He did not sleep that night. He sat by the window, looking at the stars, thinking about all the intelligent predators who had once reached for those same stars. Where were they now? Deep in his heart, he already knew the answer. But tomorrow, the council would make it official. Tomorrow, he would learn what the galaxy did to species like his dot, and then he would have to decide what to do about it. The next day, Taiho returned to the archives. The same 50 counselors were there. But today, their fear seemed different. It was mixed with something else. Shame, maybe. Or guilt. Senior Archivist Marl stood in the center of the room. Behind him, new images floated in the air. These were not pictures of animals. These were pictures of civilizations, cities made of black metal, ships with weapons bristling from every surface, creatures in armor, holding swords and guns, flags showing claws and teeth, empires built on conquest. "This is the history of the galaxy," Marl began. "The true history, not the peaceful version we tell to children." Taiho sat down and listened. He had a feeling this would take a long time. 10,000 years ago, the galaxy was ruled by predators, Marl said. The Vrexel Empire controlled 300 star systems. They were large reptiles with scales like armor and claws that could cut through steel. They conquered every world they found. The image changed. A new species appeared. These looked like wolves, but they walked on 2 legs and had 6 arms. The Keth Dominion. They were hunters who believed strength was the only law. They enslaved the weak and destroyed anyone who resisted. Another image. This time, Taiho saw creatures that looked almost like sharks, but with legs and hands. The Shattered Teeth clans. They did not want land or resources. They just wanted to fight. War was their religion. Death was their god. Marl's voice grew heavier. And there were others. Many others. The galaxy was full of predator civilizations, each one more violent than the last. Each one reaching for the stars with blood on their hands. Counselor Veth stepped forward. Her voice was soft and sad. And caught between them were species like mine. The prey, the weak, the peaceful. We had no armies. We had no weapons. We had nothing but our numbers and our fear. She looked at Taiho with her large, wet eyes. For thousands of years, we suffered. The predators used us as slaves, as food, as targets for their games. Billions of my ancestors died because they were born gentle instead of violent. Another counselor spoke up. It was a creature with long, thin arms and skin like paper. Its voice was high and crackling. The predator empires fought each other constantly. They destroyed entire planets in their wars. They burned worlds that had done nothing wrong, just because those worlds were in the way. The small feathered creature from yesterday added, "My species nearly went extinct. The Keth Dominion killed 90% of us for sport. They thought our feathers made good decorations." Taiho felt sick. He could see the pain in these beings, the trauma that had been passed down for generations. They were not just afraid of him because he was a predator. They were afraid because they remembered what predators had done. Marl continued. Finally, the predator empires destroyed each other. The Great War lasted 200 years. When it ended, the Vrexel, the Keth, and the Shattered Teeth were all gone. Burned out, extinct. The prey species survived, Veth said. Barely. We hit on small worlds. We stayed quiet. We waited, and when it was over, Marl said, we came together. For the first time in history, the prey species united. We formed the Galactic Council. We made a promise to each other. His stone face seemed to darken. Never again. Taiho understood now. But he needed to hear them say it. What does never again mean? He asked. Councilor Veth closed her eyes. A tear ran down her fur. We created the suppression protocol. When a new predator species reaches spacefaring capability, we detect them. We watch them. We study them. And then? Taiho pressed. The paper-skinned creature answered. And then we stop them. Before they can become a threat. Before they can build empires. Before they can do what the others did. You mean you killed them? Nobody denied it. We have done this 47 times, Morrow said. 47 predator species have been eliminated before they could spread into the galaxy. Each time, we told ourselves it was necessary. Each time, we said we had no choice. Taiho's hands were shaking. He forced them to be still. And now you have found humans. Yes, and you are deciding whether to kill us too. The room was silent for a long moment. Then, Councilor Veth spoke. The debate has been going on since we first detected your radio signals 50 years ago. Some counselors want to follow the protocol. Others think we should wait and watch. A few believe humans might be different. Different how? Veth looked at him with something like hope in her eyes. The other predators always showed the same patterns. Expansion, conquest, domination. They could not help themselves. It was in their nature. But humans... She paused. Humans are strange. You fight wars. Yes. You have violence in your history. Yes. But you also create art. You help strangers. You build hospitals and schools. You show mercy to enemies. The feathered creature spoke up. When we studied your planet, we saw soldiers give food to starving children. We saw predators who could kill, refuse to kill. We saw strength used to protect instead of destroy. Morrow's voice was heavy. The council is divided. Half believe you will become like the others. Half believe you might be the first predators who can choose a different path. Taiho looked around the room. 50 beings who had spent their lives afraid. 50 beings whose ancestors had suffered under predator rule. 50 beings who held the fate of humanity in their hands. What happens now? He asked. Councilor Veth stepped forward. Now, Ambassador Park, you must speak. The council has heard our fears. Now we must hear yours. She gestured to the center of the room. Tell us why we should trust a predator. Taiho stood slowly. His legs felt weak. His heart beat fast. 8 billion lives depended on what he said next. He walked to the center of the room, where the light was brightest. He faced the council. He took a deep breath, and he began to speak. Taiho stood in the center of the archives. The light from the floating crystals fell on him like a spotlight. 50 counselors watched him from their seats. Some leaned forward with interest. Others crossed their arms with doubt. A few looked ready to call for his execution at any moment. This was the moment. Everything came down to this. Taiho looked at Councilor Veth first. She had been kind to him since he arrived. Her eyes were full of hope, but also fear. She wanted to believe humans were different, but she had seen what predators could do. Then Taiho looked at Morrow. The stone archivist stood like a statue. His face showed nothing, but Taiho sensed that he was listening carefully. Finally, Taiho looked at all of them. The feathered one who had lost most of his species. The paper-skinned one who had lived in hiding. The gas being who floated away from him even now. These were not his enemies. They were survivors. I understand your fear, Taiho said. His voice was calm and clear. If I were in your position, looking at the data you showed me, I might feel the same way. He began to walk slowly around the platform. Not to threaten, just to move, just to think. Your ancestors suffered. Billions died under predator rule. You watched empires burn worlds for sport. You saw the strong eat the weak because they could. He paused. That kind of trauma does not disappear. It lives in your stories, your laws, your dreams. Some counselors nodded. They knew this truth in their bones. And now you have found another predator species, humans. We match every pattern in your database. We hunt, we fight. We have claws and teeth of steel and fire. We conquered our planet. We even tamed the other predators who shared it with us. Taiho stopped walking. He faced the council directly. By every measure you have, we should be your next threat. Your next nightmare. Your next extinction-level event. The room was very quiet. The feathered creature was trembling again. But you made a mistake, Taiho said. Morrel tilted his stone head. What mistake? Taiho pointed to the floating database, still showing human statistics. You measured what we are. Our strength. Our speed. Our aggression. Our kill rate. He lowered his hand. But you did not measure what we choose to do with it. He walked toward the image of Earth, still glowing blue and green in the air. You saw wolves in our history. You saw us hunt them, fight them, fear them. But you know what else we did? He touched the image, and it rippled like water. We made them our friends. We brought them into our homes. We turned the creatures that hunted us into the creatures that protect us. We call them dogs now, and we love them. He turned back to the council. You saw lions and bears and sharks. You saw us kill them, yes, but you also saw us build sanctuaries for them. We made laws to protect them. When they started to disappear, we spent billions of dollars to bring them back. We created entire organizations just to save animals that could kill us. Taiho's voice grew stronger. You asked why you should trust a predator. But you are asking the wrong question. We are not just predators. We are people. And people can choose. He looked at Counselor Veth. On my planet, there are doctors who spend their entire lives healing strangers they will never meet again. There are teachers who work for almost no money because they believe in helping children grow. There are firefighters who run into burning buildings to save people they do not know. He looked at the feathered creature. There are soldiers who throw themselves on bombs to protect their friends. Parents who give up food so their children can eat. Strangers who donate organs to people they will never see. He looked at Morrel. Yes, we have violence in our history. We have wars and cruelty and shame. But we also fight against those things. Every single day, billions of humans choose kindness over cruelty. Not because it is easy, because we know it is right. Taiho walked to the center of the room again. The other predators you destroyed. Maybe they could not help what they were. Maybe conquest was written so deep in their blood that they had no choice. He spread his hands. But humans are different. We are at war with ourselves every day. The predator in us wants to take, to dominate, to destroy. But there is something else in us too. Something that looks at the weak and wants to protect them. Something that looks at suffering and wants to heal it. Something that looks at the stars and wants to explore, not conquer. He faced the council one last time. You asked me to prove that humans can be trusted. I cannot prove that with words. I can only tell you what I know. He took a deep breath. Humanity is not defined by what we can do. We are defined by what we choose to do. And every day, in every corner of our planet, ordinary humans choose to be good, to be kind, to help instead of hurt. Counselor Veth had tears running down her face. Even Morrel seemed moved, though his stone expression did not change. You do not have to trust us because we are predators, Taiho finished. Trust us because we are people. And people can always choose to be better. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Counselor Veth stood up. I call for a vote. The debate lasted 3 hours. Taiho was sent outside to wait. He sat in a small room with no windows, staring at the wall. His hands would not stop shaking. Finally, the door opened. Counselor Veth walked in. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. "The vote is complete," she said. Ho stood up. His heart felt like it would explode. "For the first time in galactic history," Veth said softly, "a predator species will be welcomed into the council, not destroyed." Taiho let out a breath he did not know he was holding. His legs went weak, and he had to hold the wall for support. "We passed?" "You passed." Veth stepped forward and did something no prey species had ever done to a predator. She reached out and took his hand. "You showed us something we forgot was possible. That strength does not have to mean cruelty. That power can be used to protect." Back on Earth, Lieutenant Beak Somi received the message an hour later. She read it 3 times to make sure it was real. Then she started to cry. Humanity had been tested. Not by strength, not by power, not by weapons or technology. They had been tested by their hearts. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy had hoped that predators and prey could live together. Because one human showed them that monsters are not born, they are chosen. And humans had chosen to be something more.